Hey everybody, welcome to another episode in the Red Zone. Michael Johnson here with you. Today I'm going to reveal the RedZone preseason top 25 college football poll. This is what we think is going to be the top teams going into the season. But before we get started, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed. Like the video, always leave a comment, and let's get started. So actually, instead of 25, I've got 30 teams here. The top 10 are the ones we're really going to talk about. But let's go ahead and get started and talk about the rest of the team. So let's take a look at numbers 11 through 30. So taking a look at the list right here, you'll see I got Clemson there at number 11. Dabo Swinney hired Garrett Riley away from TCU to be offensive coordinator. They should be revamped and a lot better this year. Oregon, Texas, Quinn Ewers, they're pretty loaded. Xavier Worthy, their offense should be pretty good. Not ready to say that they're going to be a top 10 team or a playoff contender yet, but Texas should be a lot better. Oklahoma in there at 14. I think they are much improved this year. Tennessee, Wisconsin with Luke Fickell as the head coach. They should be a lot better as well. Contend for the Big Ten West. You have Notre Dame, Oregon State, Kansas State, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, who was a disappointment last year. I don't think they're going to be a whole lot better this year, but they should be a top 25 team. TCU, North Carolina, UCLA, and then Purdue. I have Purdue in there at 25. That one is one that you probably won't see Purdue in other preseason top 25 polls, but with the fact that Cade McNamara transferring from Michigan to Purdue to become their quarterback, I think that opens up their offense a lot more. I think Purdue has an opportunity to definitely be a spoiler in the Big Ten, and I think they probably, with that offense, jump into the top 25. Some teams just outside who could easily move their way in quickly. Tulane, they had an impressive season last year. You have Baylor, Kentucky, Cincinnati, and Arkansas. And that is numbers 11 through 30 as far as who I have ranked right now. So with that being said, it's time to take a look at the top 10 teams. And I'll talk a little bit about why I think they're there. And again, my preseason poll would probably be just slightly different than on some other people. So, and guys, it's preseason. Like, this is just kind of like a best guess on what to expect. Clearly, they got to play some games, but it's something for us to talk about. So that's all it is. It's entertainment. It's something to talk about. So let's go ahead and take a look, starting with number 10. I have number 10 being Florida State. Now, Florida State quarterback Jordan Travis, he should be a Heisman Trophy contender right at the beginning of the season. Florida State was impressive last year. They have probably the best offensive line in the ACC this year, so I think they're number 10. They definitely have an opportunity to play themselves higher in the rankings. After Florida State, you have Washington. Michael Penix Jr. returns. They do have a first-year head coach. However, the team should be pretty good offensively. A lot of question marks on defense. They've got to improve defensively. You know, they give up like 30 points a game last year. So they got to do better if they want to contend, because you know, they're going to have to overcome USC and Utah to win the Pac-12. So Washington certainly has the offense, but do they have the defense? That's the question mark. You have Utah coming in at number 8. Utah gets Cam Rising back. They're pretty much reloaded. 13 starters come back this year. They should be pretty good. Now, Rising is coming off an ACL tear in the Rose Bowl. So is he going to be 100%? Is he going to be good to go? I think he will be. I think with modern day medicine, I think a recovery from an ACL, he should be good to go by the start of the season. Penn State in there at number 7. Penn State is going to have a new quarterback, but they do look a lot better this year. They got a good offensive line. They return a bunch of guys. I think Penn State is going to be up there. However, the bottom line is Michigan, Ohio State still own the Big Ten, and Penn State has to get past them. I don't think they have the horses to do that this year. I think they still sit there as the third best team in the Big Ten. Moving up, next would be USC. USC, Caleb Williams returns as the Heisman Trophy winner. They have offensive weapons. You know, Lincoln Riley teams are always going to have offensive weapons. They're always going to be contenders. But listen, until they get serious about defense, until Lincoln Riley gets serious about defense, he's not going to win a playoff game. They're not going to be national title contenders. And I think that is what holds USC back right now. Alex Grinch is not the answer at defensive coordinator. They have got to move on from him. Lincoln Riley has to get somebody serious who can come in and turn around and create a top 10 defense at USC before they have an opportunity to be national title contenders. They might sneak in the playoffs. They could at the number 4, but I just don't see that being likely. So that's why I don't have them any higher in my rankings. LSU comes in ahead of USC. LSU was a surprise last year. They won the SEC West. Jaden Daniels returns at quarterback. They have a great secondary. They have a good offensive line. They have a whole lot of pieces at LSU. And really what it comes down to at the SEC West, mark it on your calendars, LSU versus Alabama. Winner of that game likely wins the SEC West. The rest of the West is just weak. I mean, it really is. It's just Alabama, LSU, and the winner comes out on top. So LSU should be there. They're going to have an opportunity to make the playoffs. The ball's really in their court as to how far they want to go with their season. Ahead of them that I have at number 4 is Alabama. Alabama, this is one of the first years I can remember coming into a season where it's not determined who your quarterback's going to be. There's question marks, but Alabama, much like other perennial blue bloods and national title contenders, they just reload. That's all they do. They will this year. But I'm not ready to say who's going to win between Alabama and LSU in that matchup and who wins the SEC West, who gets to the SEC title game. I think it's a toss-up, but I have to give the pedigree of Alabama, the recruiting of Alabama, and the fact that Brian Kelly's only on his second year at LSU. I got to give the edge slightly to Alabama just because of their history, how they recruit, and knowing Nick Saban, he's the greatest coach in college football history. I don't think you can argue that. So Alabama's got to be there at number 4. I have Ohio State in at number 3. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best wide receiver in all of college football. I think Kyle McCord ends up being the starter. I think Kyle McCord ends up being a better quarterback than C.J. Stroud. And I know that's saying a lot, but I am really high on Kyle McCord. They have a great running back core coming back. The only question mark with Ohio State is going to be their offensive line. Can they gel? Can they get together? They open up the season with Big Ten. Their first game is a Big Ten game against Indiana. I think that's a great matchup for them to get started with the season. But I think they have the talent. Jim Knowles' second year as defensive coordinator at Ohio State, I think he's going to have that defense just flying around the football. I think they're going to be a much, much improved defensive team than they were a year ago, and certainly a national title contender. So I have Ohio State at number 3. A lot of other polls are going to have them a little bit lower. I think that's a mistake. I think they truly are national title contenders. And now we go to the top 2. And clearly the top 2, Michigan, Georgia. But which order do I have them in? Well, I have Georgia at number 2. I do think, Carson Beck is likely going to be their quarterback. They lost Jalen Carter on defense, although he missed a lot of games anyway. They have a great linebacker core. They have a great secondary. And then they have a Mikael Williams he's probably going to replace Carter on the defensive front. But there's questions. Their wide receiving core was not really good last year with Stetson Bennett. Carson Beck, he might not have as many weapons. They did get some transfers come in from places, but these guys aren't, big playmakers. I don't think they're that top level like like for instance a Marvin Harrison Jr. at Ohio State. So Georgia lacks a little bit at wide receiver. They're still going to be tremendous. Back-to-back defending national champions. Can they go for a third one? I think they're in there in the hunt. They are clearly, I think, the favorite in the SEC East. But would they beat an Alabama or LSU in an SEC title game? That's to be determined. I don't know this year. So we'll see how Beck plays. We'll see what else they have coming up at quarterback. But I have them at number 2. And, of course, I am an Ohio State fan, so Ohio State fans are going to hate me for this. But right now I got Michigan as the number 1 team in the country. They return their quarterback, blanking on his name. They return their running back, Blake Corum. He returns from an injury. They have most of their team back. I mean, a team that really hit their stride last year. Their only weakness really was, against Georgia, and it was defense. And I think they're much improved this year. I just don't know, until they get beat, I think on paper, which is what this preseason poll is all about, it's about being on paper. Who's the best team on paper? Because that's all we have to go on right now. And I think it's Michigan. I mean, I really do. I think Michigan is the team to beat right now. Give me 1 second here. Let's fade that in. So you have on the bottom of the screen, I got them scrolling there. That's my my top 25 right now. But again, I think Michigan comes into the season as the favorite. You know, they get Ohio State at home this year. You know, and then also stepping back at number 8 when I was talking about Penn State. You know, Penn State, you know, their season's backloaded. They have to beat Ohio State. They have to beat Michigan at the end of the year. And Penn State's got to play Michigan State at Ford Field in Detroit in primetime on Black Friday. So that's the end of the season. You've got a backloaded schedule at a time when you're oftentimes dealing with injuries and things like that. It makes it really hard for a team like Penn State. And I think, you know, with Michigan, you know, they obviously Ohio State at the end of the year, who would they match up in the Big Ten West? I think the Big Ten West right now, on paper, comes down to Iowa and Wisconsin. I really like what Wisconsin has. I think Luke Fickell will have them winning immediately. But I think Iowa is going to be very much improved, you know, with their quarterback situation and everything like that. So that's where we're at with the RedZone preseason top 25. You know, I hope you guys enjoy the channel. I hope you enjoy the content. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed. Like the video, leave a comment. Hit that notification bell. Every time we put up a new video, you'll see it and know right away if you've hit that notification bell. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time. Take care.